You are listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. I'm not sure you can hear that in the background. The Seattle skies have opened up and it's pouring out. This is my absolute favorite weather, a vibe that gets my creative juices flowing. If you're a regular listener, first, thank God for you. You are the reason I've kept at this for the last month, this podcasting thing. In some summer episodes, I teased a season 4. Remember that? One that would focus on the alien phenomena, but would start at the beginning. The first sightings, the first academics that delved into studying the skies and oceans for non-human entities and crafts, and then it would go from there. Well, right now, season 4 is tabled. I dove into the research and I knew the conversation was supposed to begin with French academic Jacques Vallée and the Invisible College. But then I started noticing a pattern, a disturbing pattern. It made me uncomfortable. And that's why I can't press forward with it right now. So there's this huge trend to not only finally acknowledge that us humans aren't the only, quote, intelligent life out there. Okay, fine. I'm relieved about that. Experiencers everywhere are being validated. More U.S. citizens than ever are pressing government officials to disclose information on sightings reported by the military. And the congressional hearings, they're also a breath of fresh air. Even though they're proceeding at the speed of slime, it doesn't matter. At least they're going forward. So all that said, many in the UFO UAP community are frustrating me with their sincere and I feel it's even heartfelt calls to the ETs to take over Earth because we humans are doing such an awful job of caring for one another, for plants and animals, and Mother Earth in general. And that campaign to ask unknown entities to take control of this reality, well, that's where I had to stop and leave the subject behind for the time being. It feels like a propaganda campaign, what some call a PSYOP, which is shorthand for psychological operation. It's one that asks the public in general to give up what is their soul's most sacred superpower, their free will, cede that to another entity, an unknown other. I can't participate in that. At my core, what this podcasting journey has opened up has been this mega awareness that what makes the soul special, which I do not think is only the realm of humans, by the way. I feel like animals and plants have souls, but one of the most special aspects of a soul is its free will. I believe if there is any universal law, it's that no one or nothing can trample on our free will. Even angels cannot do that. That's why you have to be super specific when you're reaching out for angels to help or intercede. In fact, I asked for my own independent abundance a while ago. This was months ago. And within days, my partner suffered a health scare. So that's how literal they were. They're like, oh yeah, you'll get abundance. And then my partner starts feeling bad. I'm like, nope, that is not acceptable. That's when I realized I needed to be specific, specificity. But back to the UAP, the UFO, the ETs, intelligent investigators, brilliant researchers, and world-renowned journalists have had at different stages of their careers, they've become fear-based. fear about the fate of humanity, that is. And instead of looking into the camera and asking the all-powerful free souls that tuned in to manifest peace and love and abundance for all, and maybe better stewardship of the planet in general and universe, they're asking that we let ETs take over. So that's why I'm not diving into season 4 as I had imagined it. Instead, I've been creating episodes based on my morning minutes. So instead of having 6 episodes in the can, all recorded, polished, uploaded, and ready, I am going week to week. It's a weird episode introduction, but the rain, the thick fog over the lake, the snoring dog at my feet, all those set the stage for an episode best consumed in your pajamas, and even better, by candlelight. I've gathered a few of my original spooky stories together and will share the inspiration behind some of them, as well as share 2 very recent ghost happenings in my life. Let's get into it. The first story is called Ghostwriter. And the creepiest thing about this story that I wrote is I have no recollection of writing it and typing it into my computer. So when I was rereading it, some of it seemed familiar, like an old dream journal entry, while most of it seemed fresh. And I thought, oh, that's a really good idea. It's titled Ghostwriter. You are no longer welcome here. I yell into the mirror as I draw a star shape and then a circle with the smoke from the end of my sage bundle. My hands tremble with nerves. I grip the sage tight and stare into the glass, watching the ghostly figure evaporate. You are hereby banished. Flames burst from the bundle and singe the tips of my fingers. I drop the sage and stamp out the smoke with my bare foot. Ash scatters across the carpet in my daughter's room. Shaking out a fat quarter of cloth, I cover the mirror and secure the fabric with painter's tape. You will never control me again. I turn my back and shrug off the feeling I'm being watched. I'd throw the mirror away if it wasn't for my daughter. She found it in a thrift shop long ago on the Snohomish River, not long before she left for college. Tears sting at the corner of my eyes. Sadness wraps around my torso like a boa constrictor. It squeezes. I miss her so much. God, it's been 3 years. Get a goddamn grip. The theme of Game of Thrones erupts from my jeans pocket. I turn off the alarm on my cell phone and hurry down the hall. I dress fast for the television interview I'm supposed to be taping at this very moment. The Uber driver will have to wait. I send her a message and twirl my hair into a messy bun as I shuffle on black flats and rush through the front door. I arrive at the television studio on time. No small miracle. As the makeup artist makes me look like the photo on the back of my novels, she scrunches up her nose. Really? Isn't it a bit early to light up? She sniffs, half smiling. Oh, that's sage smoke. I smudged my home this morning. It's kind of true, but it doesn't explain the whiskey on my breath. Oh well, let her think I'm eccentric. Some of the best writers were drunks, right? Okay, that does it, she says, setting down a brush. You're on in 5 minutes. She closes the lid on a plastic tub full of glosses and shadows. Wait, what's that? She leans her face within inches of mine and touches a hand to the corner of my eye, pulls away her finger and frowns. Black? I didn't even use black shadow. She clears off the mark with a cotton swab. Satisfied, she spins my chair so I face the mirror. Have a look. Without thinking, I obey. Before I can focus on the reflection, I see her, the apparition, at my elbow. The girl has on a long black dress, and her hair, the color of tobacco-stained teeth, drapes over her bony shoulders. Her skin appears slick and cool, like melted wax on the side of a funeral candle. She looks at the corners of her cracked lips where drops of crimson blood collect. She stares at me, and I watch her pupils dilate, threatening to swallow me whole. She mouths, I want to speak for myself today. A chill runs down my spine. The makeup artist is unaware as she organizes her tools. I sneak a flask out of my handbag and top off my coffee with whiskey, then exhale. That should help make the girl in the mirror feel less real. "Did you hear me?" she asks. "Let me speak." I stand and turn my back to the mirror. "I look nice, thank you," I say. I drop the smock on the chair and the makeup artist grabs my arm. She holds my latest horror novel open to the title page and fumbles for a Sharpie from her cluttered table. "Would you mind signing this for me?" she asks. It's Bianca, spelled Bianca. She likes to write with expensive pens on blank page notebooks, I think. She knocks me out. Then she uses my hands to fill up the pages as fast as she can. When I wake up, I find my next bestseller in the notebook waiting to be typed into the computer. "Miss Tobin," the Ken doll morning show host stares, concern riddling his peachy forehead. "Do you need a moment?" I take a sip of whiskey-laced coffee and collect myself, cross my legs at the ankles, and push the ghost girl out of my head. Feeling centered, I remember the host's question. What is my writing method? No way I can speak the truth. Well, my writing is inspired by my nightmares. So strange as it seems, I'm happiest when I wake up with a scream lodged in the back of my throat, I say, reciting my standard answer. That's why I always have a notebook and pen on my nightstand. Before I wake up all the way, I write down my dreams before any details escape. Sometimes my notes become short stories, and other times I flesh them out into full-length novels. The host leans forward and says into the camera, "So I guess heartburn is your muse then?" He smiles at his own joke. "The old pickle and peanut butter sandwich would give anyone nightmares, am I right?" "Something like that," I say, and fake giggle. "So, any chance I can look through the notebook you've got there? Preview America's next bestseller?" he asks. I tuck the book beneath my leg. "This one's rough, not ready for eyes. Not yet. Besides, I doubt you could make out my writing. It's impossible to read. I have to hold the pages upside down in the mirror to transpose the ghost girl's words, I think, but keep those words locked behind my teeth." The ghost girl scratches at the back of my throat. "Let me speak," she whispers. I sip whiskey java and clench my jaw. I'm in charge, not her. "Well, Miss Tobin, when you decide it is ready, would you mind sending my wife an advance reader's copy? She's a huge fan. She's read all of your books and swears you're better than Stephen King." Shut up, I think. The ghost girl is clawing up my throat, desperate to take the compliments in first person. I gulp another slug of whiskey. "Wow, I'm not sure about all that," I choke out the words. "I'm flattered. Please thank your wife for me." "I sure will. Thanks so much for making us the first stop of your book tour, Miss Tobin. You are always so good to us hometown folks." He smiles and turns to face the camera. "Stay with us because after the break, we're going to show you what to do with all of that leftover Halloween candy." The light on the camera darkens, and an assistant helps me to my feet. He frowns and touches a finger to the corner of his lips. "You've got something there, something black," he says. "Thanks," I say, and leave to find a bathroom. I barely get the lid raised on the toilet before coughing up a trail of charcoal slime, coffee, and alcohol. I wipe my mouth and flush. Nope, I can't give another interview until I have this under control. At the sink, I rinse my mouth with water and sneak a glimpse in the mirror, blotting black residue from the corners of my eyes. She's inside me again, but I saged the mirror and I covered every other reflective surface in the house. Overkill maybe, but it seemed right at the time. It's not like there's a perfect remedy for dark magic gone wrong. Try Googling scry fails. In my periphery, I see her. Her black silhouette wavers, then collects into a more solid form. I said I wanted to speak for myself. She screams, and a plume of gray fog bursts from the mirror. The door to the bathroom swings open and a woman enters. The ghost girl disappears, but the stench of rotten meat lingers in the small space. The woman scowls and I push past her to exit. I wake up in a pool of sunshine, sweating and confused. Where am I? What time is it? How did I get home from the station? I untangle myself from the bed sheet stuck to my naked body. I reek as though I finished a marathon. I lick my teeth and taste cigarette ash. I'm in bed in my home, but how? I find my cell phone on the nightstand and flip it over, seeing I've lost more than a day. What did she do to me this time? I have to get rid of that mirror. I open the text conversation with my college daughter and see that she still hasn't read my last batch of messages. I type, I need to get rid of that mirror in your room. Bad juju. I'll pay you back and you can find something new next time you're home. Love you. I hit send. Thirsty, I reach for the glass on my nightstand and sip tepid water. I set the glass down and it rattles. At the bottom, I find pebbles and grit. I tip over the glass and 6 pebbles roll into the palm of my hand. What the hell? White hot pain sears my skin and I drop the stones. I run to the kitchen and jam my hand into the ice bin in the freezer. The stinging subsides. I run cold water over my skin and look out the window into the backyard. My clothes from the interview are scattered across the lawn. In the middle of the small patch of grass, there's a mound of dirt. What the actual hell is going on? I reach for the back door and pause. I need to put on clothes first. In my closet, I unhook a bathrobe from the wall. Before I tie the belt, I notice the mirror is exposed. The cloth I taped to the length of it sits in a pile on the rug. Shivering, I near the glass and stare at my body, foreign to me now. I am the thinnest I've ever been, and not in a good way. I see the top of the ghost girl's head, the crown of peroxide yellow hair of the specter. You can't be here. I banished you. This isn't possible. Rage and fear pulse through my bloodstream, mixing into absinthe. I hold my hands in 2 tight fists, ready to strike. According to who, she asks. As I watch, she becomes crisp and sharp until I can't see through her to the other side of the closet. You did this, Claire. When you cast that spell, what you take comes back thrice. You have taken so very much, haven't you? My stories bought all of this. Your house, your success. Now it's time to repay that debt. What do you have to offer that I haven't already taken myself? In her hand, she holds a stuffed teddy bear, the left eye missing. It's my daughter's. My college daughter's, and even though she's too old for it now, she keeps it on the bed in her room because she's secretly sentimental. Where did you get that? I say it and my legs give out. I hit the floor hard. Static fills my ears and my sight flickers. I try to stand, but I slip and flounder. I can't control my legs. The ghost girl laughs, a scratchy cackle, and as she does, the edges of her singe like a burning photograph. The smoke of her swirls over me, scrambles my thoughts, and numbs the fighter part of my brain. My instinct tells me not to breathe in the smoke, but my chest burns, desperate for air. I breathe in and rancid meat, pond scum, hot, sick, sulfur air fills my throat and lungs. Darkness seeps into my veins, bone marrow, then soul. That's when I recall the pile of dirt in the yard. What did I do during my missing hours? What did she make me do this time? Parts come back. I remember taking the mirror off the wall in my daughter's room, and then the ghost girl. She made me find hair, my daughter's hair. I pulled it out of a hairbrush in her bathroom. Blue hair that when I held it to my nose smelled like rosemary and mint. I sobbed, begging as the ghost girl threatened to take my daughter from me, replace her. Why did she make me go into the yard? What was the point of the hole she had me dig in the ground? I pick at my bloody, soil-caked nails, and a flash of tamping down dirt flickers through my memory. I have to stay in control, call my daughter, hear her voice, make sure she's okay. She lives 3 states away. The ghost girl couldn't possibly harm her from that distance, could she? The cursor blinks on a Word doc containing 78,001 words. The police officer scrolls to the top and reads, "Why is she letting me tell you about her? Is she drunk on power? Is that why she's letting me type? What I do know is fear her. Stay away from her. Destroy her mirror. As I type, I feel her inside sucking the life out of me. There's not much time left. My vision is blurry. My muscles and my fingers do not want to cooperate. This is my goodbye letter. I don't know who will find it, but I beg you to tell my daughter that I love her and I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. The girl in the mirror is bloodthirsty. She's vicious and spiteful. It wasn't true at first. She was made this way by others, and I sealed her fate when I used the mirror to scry. I was researching an idea for a book, and then she appeared like a dream come true, and she filled me with ideas, notebooks full of them, and I wrote. The book sold better than any of the others. I was on top again. God, I was an addict. Now it's time to pay back that debt. I won't let her take my daughter, but she can have me and take credit for all of the novels she wrote, even this one. Did I make her stronger through the scrying ritual? I'm not certain. She's bloodthirsty. She wanted my daughter, but I gave her myself instead. She's in control of me now, so I'm going to starve myself and hopefully kill her in the process. She doesn't let me answer the phone, hasn't let me stand or stretch or sleep. It's been almost a week and I'm wasting away in front of the computer. Please deliver this manuscript to my publisher. It was the last condition of our contract. Oh, and please list her as my ghostwriter. Her name is Birch. Signed, C. Tobin. What are you reading? The young police officer asks. The officer jolts. I'm not sure. I think it's her new novel. Bizarre look. She scrolls through the pages and they read in silence. Working title, Ghostwriter. From the author, a note. For a quarter of a century, I existed inside a shard of glass. It took another decade to find Claire Tobin. That's 4 lives if I'm counting right. In the beginning, I lived an unexceptional life. I died of cancer not long after my 40th birthday. They buried me near a birch tree, and soon the roots grew, wrapping around my remains. My headstone leaned into the thickening trunk like a hug, and I stayed there, wrapped in sinewy tethers for years. Then 2 things occurred in quick succession. First, a camp counselor brought a group of kids to my grave one summer night. In the flickering beam of a flashlight, he made up a story about me to scare them. He told them I was a witch and that I was put to death for poisoning husbands that cheated on their wives. Never mind that there's a cross engraved in my tombstone. The kids ate up the story, and soon it became a local legend. Teens dared each other to sneak into the woods and deface my grave. Satanists performed rituals at the base of the birch tree. Ghost hunters visited my grave with their beeping, glowing equipment. All of that fear and curiosity began to have weight, a mass that gave my bones new life. The second thing that occurred is related to the first. One of the campers returned to visit me after she'd grown up, a shard of glass in her pocket. She'd come to kill herself in my company, cut the glass across her wrist, and put an end to her heartache. After she drew blood, she impaled the birch tree with the shard of glass, and I couldn't resist. I dragged my soul up the roots of that tree, over the paper-thin bark and into the mirror to be closer to the sweet scent. I watched the life run out of her, breathed it in as she died. Later, vandals burned down the tree to try and erase what they'd created, a witch buried beneath a birch. The arborist that tried to salvage the tree found the shard of glass and slipped it into his pocket. I lived on the nightstand in his bedroom until he died of a heart attack. More dust settled on the shard after that, but then his widow took a professional picture framing class. Remembering the piece of glass, she built a frame around it, and it became a strange diamond-shaped mirror. When she passed away, a necessity I could barely stomach doing, her belongings ended up in an antique shop on Snoqualmie River. Finding my new home was easy. The young woman was experimenting with magic in secret, and she felt something the instant she entered the shop. I was hidden behind a tall chest of drawers, but she took me off the rusty nail and dusted off the edges of the gold frame on the leg of her jeans. She looked at her reflection, and I peeked out at her, taking the form of my younger self, which I think she appreciated because she smiled. I didn't kill her, didn't have to because her mother Claire was ripe for the picking. I hung on the wall for days, waiting for a chance to break free of that mirror prison. One night, Claire opened the door to her daughter's room, a glass of whiskey in her shaky hand. She talked about the book ideas that had dried up and the loneliness that had settled over her life like dust. As she spoke, she sobbed, opening drawers, touching posters pinned above the desk, holding a scarf to her nose and stretching across the bed where she passed out. It was clear. Claire needed me and I needed her to escape the confines of the glass. While she slept, I whispered to Claire about the power of scrying and teased her with a book idea. Look up scry spells and you'll stumble into your next novel. I've given her everything she desired, bestsellers, fame, success, but she refused to give me more freedom. When she stopped dating, I knew my days using her body as a vessel were finite. I'm not sure where I'll go from here, but I'm strong enough to hover on the wind, a free spirit now in search of a new home. It's only a matter of time. That's wild. Do you think it's true? The young police officer asks. Or is it the best opening of a novel that's ever been written? The other police officer says, looking at him sideways. She touches her tongue to the corner of her mouth where a dab of black ash has collected. Come on, let's get out of here. The detectives can sort out the rest. We've got better things to do, she says. The end. Okay, that was, again, it's kind of weird because it just showed up on my Word doc and I really don't remember writing it, but then there's bits and pieces. I'm like, that's my writer's voice. So it's very weird. It's so meta, isn't it? The second story was born of a trip to the Hawaiian Islands. We had gone to the Big Island first, and then we went over to Oahu for a couple days. And I also want to tell you that Kane, the stone man, this statue actually exists in the Bishop Museum. Here's the story of Kane, the stone man. The evening before our family visited the Bishop Museum in Hawaii, I dreamt about him, the stone man. He spoke to me about his terminal isolation and yearning to share a life with someone. When I woke, the details of his story escaped me, but the emotions behind them pressed into my soul like a handprint. I pulled the comforter from my face and watched the ocean waves crash against the black lava from the hotel bed. I longed to hear sounds of the ocean, but my husband's snores drowned them out. I'd have to be content to watch the blue water dance beneath the morning light. Slowly, tracing the rise and fall of the waves with my eyes, the hollow ache beneath my ribs subsided. As I rose to shower, the wall we shared with the next hotel room groaned with the sounds of pleasure, and as their pounding quickened, my cheeks turned pink with shame and jealousy. Yes, like the stone man from my dream, I lived a lonely existence. I endured the eyes of a husband that looked through me when I passed, the ears of 2 children that no longer heard my voice when I spoke, none of them sensing the hunger behind my hugs that screamed, "Please love me." Later that afternoon at the museum, throngs of visitors, my husband and daughters included, rushed past me to explore the Hawaiian Hall. For once I didn't mind being left behind. I stood in the center of the room and looked around. The hall was a glorious spectacle, from the grand whale that hung above my head to the shimmering koa-clad interior to the vibrant island artwork. I felt inspired and alive. There was a whispering in my ear. "Come to me. You're so close now." Startled, I glanced around but couldn't find the source of the strange voice. Then, cold air tickled my neck and arms, and I knew it was Kane, the stone man from my dream. A shiver of expectation ran down my spine. I found him easily, as if I'd traveled the path to that private nook 100 times before. He stood alone at the end of a dimly lit hall. His expression seemed strange in the lights that shone from the floor up the 3 feet of lava to his face. His eyes were uneven and cast dark shadows with a bottomless pit quality to them. His nose was a triangle-shaped divot that reminded me of a jack-o'-lantern a child might carve. It was his mouth, his most prominent feature, that drew me closer. Not exactly a smile or a frown. It stretched across his face in a wide swoop. I closed my eyes, and the impression of Kane's eyes and mouth throbbed behind my lids. Stray visitors walked toward the stone man. Inevitably, they would shake their heads, rub their arms, and back away. Yes, I understood that reaction. I did. But even more than how Kane looked, maybe they sensed the longing that pulsed within the stone figure, how the stone man ached to be touched by human hands. Scared visitors mistook loneliness for something dark and sinister, so they fled from Kane. Not me, though. I wasn't afraid. I noticed the sign posted on the wall behind Kane. It told the story of how he was found. A black and white photo taken in Kauai on the island of Hawaii showed him standing next to a native-born man named Wahine Nui. Kane came to Wahine Nui in a dream. In it, the stone man cried out to be discovered, dug up and brought into the sunshine again. He longed to be free of the constant cold and darkness that entombed him. Kane showed Wahenui where to search, and the next morning the man obeyed. A few years later, in 1909, Kane was brought to the Bishop Museum. He was displayed on the first floor of the Hawaiian Hall. Even during a major renovation, the signs explained, Kane refused to be moved or stored away. Even when curators swore it was for his own protection, Kane stayed put. In my periphery, I watched my family climb the steps to the second floor of the museum, leaving me further behind. Part of me considered abandoning Kane to catch up, but Kane whispered, "Stay." So I did. I took pictures of him with my phone. I read his story again and snapped a picture of the sign, too. I watched as visitors passed, shivered, frowned, and moved away. I didn't need to sleep like Wahenui to hear his voice. "Please touch me, please." I didn't know if it was aloud or kapu, as the Hawaiians say, but a quick glance around and I knew I was safe from curious eyes. I laid a hand on his forehead, caressed the smooth lava, and then rubbed the ridge above his eyes. It was like touching a block of ice. He was so cold, but then under my hand, he warmed. I tugged my hand away in surprise, but then smiled. My hand tingled and I stroked his lava face again. "Oh, Kane," a tear trickled down my cheek. "You feel me, don't you?" My heart pounded and I touched his chest. I took a picture of my hand held over the place where his heart should be. A cry echoed from the main hall. It was the voice of my youngest child. Startled, I pulled away from Kane and watched my daughter collect herself at the base of the staircase. She checked her leg and barked, "I'm fine, Dad." Reluctantly, I said goodbye to Kane to check after my daughter. I kissed the top of his head, and unlike my children, he didn't squirm away or wipe off the pink mark my lipstick left. This is when I noticed bits of ivory across Kane's lava stone, pieces of bone the size of baby teeth. I shivered, pulled my hand away, and said goodbye. On the ride back to the hotel, I was quiet. My family didn't seem to notice how absorbed I was in my own thoughts. We passed a beach park and I looked out my window, startled to see Kane's uneven eyes and crooked frowns staring back at me in the reflections. "I know you're here, Kane. I love you too." I don't know where the words came from, but they came. As we turned onto the street that led to the hotel, I saw Kane's face once, twice, 3 times scrawled upon the storefront glass. It scared me a little that he had the power to do that, but I liked how he followed me home. It made me feel safe and seen. That evening, I fell asleep in the giant king bed alone. I stared at the ocean spray that coated the sliding glass door that led down to the beach. Before my eyes, I watched Kane's face drawn into the moisture. I gasped, but my husband didn't bother to look up from his computer screen. He typed away at the desk by the bed. He didn't ask if the light disturbed me, but it did. I prefer complete darkness when I sleep, so I pulled the white comforter over my head and fell asleep. My last thought was of Kane, his crooked frown and dark eyes. Kane came to me in my dreams. Not made of stone this time, he was a young Hawaiian man, son of the greatest fisherman Hawaii had ever known. He loved the small village where he grew up. It was on the northern coast of the chain's largest island. Because of the fish they coaxed from the ocean, the villagers were favored above all else by the great Hawaiian king. The village never went without because the king paid handsomely for the coveted fish. Kane's true love lived in the village as well. As children, they grew up together, playing in each other's shadows until they were deemed old enough to learn their parents' trades. When Kane was 6, his father brought him along to the ocean and taught him to fish in the way of his ancestors. Kane showed natural talent. As the years passed, Kane surpassed his father's talents for fishing. He invented ways to fish in deeper parts of the waters, parts no one prior had been able to access. Kane caught the most and biggest fish. It was rumored that the greatest Hawaiian king to ever live would only eat what Kane captured, so the villagers renamed him King Fisher. Though much changed in Kane's life after his fame grew, his love for the girl stayed true, and of course her love for him endured. The girl was beautiful, she was smart, and a graceful dancer as well. Kane told me that her goodness made her glow from the inside. That was how she came to be known by the Hawaiian word for pearl, mimo. When they were old enough, the families agreed to their marriage. The families planned and prepared for the event. Kane caught the most spectacular pink fish for the luau. It was like nothing that had ever been pulled from the waters. The fish was as long as a man and was covered in pink scales that glowed gold in the sun. Word spread about the unique fish, and soon the king's men came to see it. Soon after, the king's men left, taking the fish with them. And when Mimo fought the men, they took her as well, saying the king desired another wife and she would serve just fine. Kane was heartsick. Halfway down the dry coast, Mimo wept for her lost love and the marriage that would never be. The girl's sadness enraged the prideful king. He reminded the girl that it was he who had united the Hawaiian Islands. He was a god compared to the fishing boy. The girl cried until merciful Pele came down from the mountains. Pele poured lava over the girl, lava that transformed her into a great waterfall. This way, Mimo could cry in peace for all the days to come. This angered the king even more. His new wife taken by Pele, and yet the fishing boy still lived. Seeking vengeance, the king called upon the high priest of Molokai, the island where the magic had been mastered. At the king's demand, the priest turned Kane into stone and buried him under the sands of Hawaii, where for all eternity he would never die, but he also would never feel again, not a single caress of a sun ray, nor the touch of a human hand. As I walked, I worried I'd left the hotel door open, that my children would be sad when they found I was gone. Kane continued to recite his story to me, slowly so I could record all of his words. I remember passing by people on that dark walk to the museum, families, and it made me miss my own children. I longed to kiss them as they slept, the only time they tolerated my touch. I cried as I walked and begged Kane to understand why I had to return. But then Kane told me of his secret magic. He swore that the Molokai priest's magic lived on inside him. With it, Kane promised me he would make my most deep-felt wish come true. I followed his voice through the streets, and with the moon lighting my path, I found my way back to the Bishop Museum. I knew what I wanted more than anything, and I prayed that Kane was right. His power would be strong enough to make my family take note of me at last. Kane's voice was so gentle as I mounted the last steps into the unlocked doors of the Hawaiian Hall. The next day, a family visiting from Washington State filed a missing persons report with the Honolulu Police Department. Staff at the Bishop Museum were baffled by the new stone figure that appeared beside Kane. Even more puzzling were the pages of a journal littered across the base of the new figure. We will call her Mimo. The end. Before we're going to take a little break for a couple promos for a podcast and people that I absolutely love in real life. And then I'm going to tell you about the last couple weeks I've had, which includes 2 very vivid ghosts. Hang on for a sec.
This Halloween, Oktoberpod has the double for your toil and trouble. Tune in to Oktoberpod AM, wherever you get podcasts, on October 24th to hear The Spirit Doll, a spooktacular new audio drama starring your favorite indie podcasters and written by maniacs. Then on Halloween Day, visit Oktoberpod Home Video on YouTube, where Edward October will be telling Halloween bedtime stories, a family-friendly special that's perfect for getting your children of the night off to sleep. Yes, it's double the Halloween fright and double the Halloween fun when you listen to Oktoberpod AM's presentation of The Spirit Doll on October 24th, wherever you get podcasts. And watch Oktoberpod Home Video's Bedtime Stories for Halloween, narrated by Edward October. Find Oktoberpod on the World Wide Web at oktoberpodvhs.com. Oktoberpod, retro horror for bold individualists. Pull the strings!
If you haven't heard yet, the Homewrecker Podcast isn't your typical podcast.
Join us, Alex,
And Monique,
as we discuss a wide range of topics.
like spiritual healing, privacy, ghosts, conspiracy theories, health, self-sufficiency, aliens, and pretty much anything else we want.
Ghosts? Conspiracy theories? Who believes in that stuff?
We do.
Allegedly.
Supposedly.
In theory. So listen to us and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, Google Play, or anywhere else you enjoy your podcasts.
Help us wreck and shatter conventional wisdom and ways of thinking while having some fun in the process.
Hey, that's my line.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for being here. As promised, I've had a couple strange things happen to me in the last month. The first is the story of a young athlete with all the promise in the world. His football career was cut short, and then he reached out to help his family find peace. At least that's what I think he wants. You decide. So after returning from a trip across the country to relocate my younger daughter, her partner, and their cat, I did not remember a single dream for a good 2 weeks. Then out of the blue, this happened. And because you listen to this podcast, you already know that I've been crossing people over from that in-between space to the beyond, so I can level with you. It wasn't a dream. That's what I'd say to strangers, which we are not. So I'll back up. In early September, in my sleep, I was asked by a young man to cross him over. That's the deal. I cannot solicit business, okay? I'm not trying to sell insurance here. They have to come to me if they want me to cross them over, and if they feel I'm the best soul to be there with them. It's like a Match.com, but with crossing people over, I guess. So I imagine that there's like a lot of levels to our soul contract, but that's the essence of it. In this experience, I showed up at this apartment building, and his unit was on the second floor, and the hallway, it was one of those buildings where the hallway is kind of outdoors. It's like a catwalk. His entrance was close to the elevator. He'd left me a note on his front door that said, "At lunch with my girl, be back soon." And I was okay to go inside and wait for him. Well, first, I didn't see much in his place in the way of furniture. The apartment was super modern with high ceilings that were smooth white, and so there was none of that like popcorn stuff, that asbestos popcorn stuff on the ceilings. And the walls were like a coconut white. He taped index cards with what looked like painter's tape on the walls. And when I got up close because I wanted to see what was on them, that's when I saw that he'd written inspirational quotes to himself. They were like to motivate himself. And one in particular index card that was taped up there was specifically to remember his name. I only remembered the letter D. On other index cards, there were like video clips. They were highlights from his career running in a continual loop. Each index card had a different clip, right? It was like a colorized version of those Harry Potter photos from the movies. And in all of them, he wore a red jersey with a white number. In most of them, it was a white number 7. But what's funny is that one clip he had the same red jersey, but it was a white number 3, like he'd only worn that number for a short time. But he was a quarterback. He was a rising star. He was a really fantastic player and person. I just got that sense. He was just a joy to be a teammate with and friend. He'd gotten so close to realizing his dream of becoming a star in the NFL, but he died prematurely. That's why he didn't want to leave this in-between realm until now. That was the feeling I got. Having checked out his place, I was like, wait a minute. He called me to cross him over. He wants this. I've got to go find him. I felt like he was kind of playing a game. He was trying to avoid me. And so I left his apartment and I took the elevator to the ground level. I looked around and realized the restaurant he'd taken his girl to, well, it was like Seattle and Starbucks. There was one right there in his apartment building of this restaurant, and then there was another down the block, and there was another on the other side. So I knew he was messing with me a bit, and maybe he'd been feeling cold feet about actually crossing over. I thought it was silly and funny. I just thought, oh my God, this guy's funny. I took the elevator back up to his floor, and there, with her back turned to me, was this older, very maternal energy lady. And she said in a strong voice, "No more messing around, Dwayne. I came right now so we could cross over together." He smiled wide and shrugged at me, and then off they went together. So that was the end of it, right? Well, in all the times I've woken up remembering who I'd crossed over, and I hadn't actually crossed him over, right? It was this maternal person that had in his life. But I'd never before felt compelled to Google the person. But this time was different. My right ear would ring, and it somehow intensified my urge. So finally I Googled, and I think it was something like young black quarterback tragically taken before his time. And there he was. It was him. Red jersey, white 7, and all. It took my breath away. I had to go deep. I researched the cause of his death, which was tragic and unexpected. I watched YouTube videos of people that put them up, some like sports fans, some former NFL players that were asking questions about the circumstances surrounding his premature death and very tragic death. And after all that, I was just left asking, why me? Why would he ask me to cross him over and then take off, leaving this beautiful matriarch to do the actual crossing? What was the point? And that's when I remembered my podcast family. The majority of them are true crime podcasters. And we have this chat on Twitter, and I gave them in the chat the bare bones of his story. I didn't even give his name out. And one of them, a podcaster out of Florida, said they wanted to take up the gauntlet. They wanted to start chasing down the leads and kind of sewing up the questions of his death. So if you feel compelled right now listening to learn more about this wonderful young man and use either your psychic skills or internet sleuthing skills or a combination of both to help give his family the peace and closure they deserve, then please check out the show notes. I promise he made it clear to me that this is more than okay. In fact, he said that was the point of this all. Also, feel free to email me or reach out on socials if you need help or if you gather any information you'd like me to add to my growing file on him. The final real life short story is short and not sweet. So the synopsis, the Bothell Hell House messed up my car. No, I'm serious. So a week ago, my precious soul sis Molly came for a visit to Kirkland. We actually pulled ourselves off the couch where we could have sat for the next 3 days straight talking. And we went on adventures. And one day we went north to Mystical Wares. Molly wanted to see on our way back the Bothell Hell House. She wanted to see it for herself. And so I texted Keith Linder and he gave me the address in confidence with the sworn promise that I'd never post it anywhere, which of course I agreed to keep to myself and I never would. But on the way back from Mount Vernon, my Maps app sent us this weird way to avoid some accidents. No surprise, the accidents. I mean, Everett always has scary traffic, but there were some accidents. We drove through it's so beautiful. There were kids getting out of school, so we had to be really slow in parts. And then there were all these farms with these gorgeous pumpkin patches, and we were in this hilly area. And then the sun was shining and we turned into the most indescript neighborhood. And there it was, the Bothell Hell House. We parked across the street and mind you, we had sprayed ourselves up, down, and sideways with Florida water, which has holy water in it. We had protection from our angels and every kind of crystal on our persons. We had zero feeling about the house until Molly cracked open the door to take a photo. And that's when my ghost app on my phone lit up. We received 3 words, dawn, tide, and tools. And we actually kind of had a giggle about it. We thought that it was our angels saying, we're trying to say that you're clean, you're clear because dawn and tide and you have the tools or something. So we closed the door and we snacked on chocolate cupcakes. And I noticed the only part of the house that freaked me out was above the garage. It was the paint was kind of peeling, which always sort of freaks me out. Then we drove back to Kirkland. So once home and rested, Molly looked closer at the photos that she'd taken of the house. There were clear rainbows that appeared to jet out of my car, almost like angel wings. They were so strange and it was so obvious. And the sun was in a place that there was no explanation for it. That wasn't a prism that was caused by a mirror or any glass. Then the next day, as I was driving Molly to the airport, I got an emergency warning on my dash. My car is relatively new. I take it for regular tune-ups, and it has under 20,000 miles. I'd never seen anything like this. I got Molly to the airport, and on the drive home, a different alert popped up. And over the next 3 days, 5 different alerts showed up, sometimes all at the same time. And sometimes they were all different. Sometimes there were consistent ones. All said they were malfunctions and that the car was okay to drive, but to schedule maintenance. So I'm taking my car into the shop this week. Is it a faulty battery? I drive my car almost daily, so the warnings weren't due to a drained battery. Was it energy from the Bothell Hell House? Well, I DM'd Keith to tell him we'd stopped by the house and I mentioned the car thing. And he said he never tells people this, but it is a common side effect of being close to that house. It's happened to many different folks, he said. When I made my service appointment, the person asked for the different warning lights that had gone off. And at the end, I said, basically my car's having a tantrum. And we laughed. And then I told her it could be a ghost because I'm taking it to the Bothell Hell House. And she laughed harder. But what if the energies Molly and I surrounded ourselves with to protect ourselves fried the electrical system? Like our protecting spirits drained the battery. I don't know. I just hope the final bill for my car comes in under a few $100. I hope you enjoyed the ghost stories. If you have a ghost story you're willing to share, email me at curious_cat_podcast@icloud.com. I'd love to hear it. Until next time, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.